This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत
This is Bharat FM.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Good evening to all Indians and Mumbaikars, and good morning to Cincinnati viewers. And I have been told that we are being broadcast today. We are going live to New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Chicago. That's wonderful. Welcome all viewers from these cities. And I'm your host today at Storytellers Cafe, Usha Venkatraman here from Mumbai. Welcome everyone to Storytellers Cafe. Wishing you all a very warm 73rd Independence Day. So Storytellers Cafe is exactly 8 weeks old. Today is our 8th segment, and we've been receiving very good response to Storytellers Cafe. The USP of Storytellers Cafe is to bring alive stories to all the viewers. And sometimes we've been having conversations and expressions on Storytellers Cafe from master storytellers. We had Geeta Ramanujam last week, the doyen of Indian storytelling. So Storytellers Cafe is a 30-minute segment on Bharat FM every Sunday at 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time and 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So today I have a very interesting guest, not from India. So the idea of Storytellers Cafe is also to bring you storytellers not only from across India, but from around the world, so that we can expose the storytellers to the global Indian diaspora. And we have so many Indian tellers. So today my guest is Shereen Saif, a diverse personality based in Dubai, an Indian-born artist with a practice that spans dance, theater, storytelling, voice acting, and installation art. Her foundation is diverse and has deep roots in dance, theater, and architecture. A dancer with a movement vocabulary shaped by her training in Bharatanatyam, Mohiniyattam, and Kathak. Shereen has learnt under eminent artists, including Kalamandalam Sujatha, Dr. Neena Prasad, and Pali Chandra. Shereen is a certified acting professional from the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. And she's also trained in the Navarasa Saadhana, a unique acting methodology developed by Kutiyattam exponent and scholar Venu G. Trained at Kathalaya's International Academy of Storytelling, Bangalore by Geeta Ramanujam, and mentored by Paola Balbi, one of the most significant personalities in the international storytelling revival scene. Shereen is known for her physical storytelling style, movement, that integrates elements of music, dance, and theater. Shereen is passionate about oral storytelling and she has a repertoire largely consisting of traditional Indian tales. A multidisciplinary artist with deep interest in the applied arts and the creative movement therapy, Shereen has long-standing associations with UAE-based social enterprises Mawahib, I hope I'm getting that right, an art studio for adults with special needs and movement mantra, an establishment working with those afflicted with Parkinson's disease. Featured as one of the 40 power players in UAE, Shereen has performed widely in group and solo shows across United Arab Emirates, India, France, and Italy. Storytellers Cafe is indeed happy to welcome Shereen Saif into our Zoom studios today, and I leave the floor to Shereen. Shereen will talk a little bit about the storytelling scene in Dubai, and she has something excellent in store for you. So over to you, Shereen. Welcome to Storytellers Cafe.
Namaste. Hello. Can you hear me all? Usha, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Lovely to see you all, although I can't really see you. I'm hoping you're watching the show. Thank you for coming to the show and being a part of this evening of storytelling. I'm Shereen Saif, and Usha, thank you so much for that warm welcome. To tell you a little bit about the storytelling scene here in Dubai and how I got into storytelling. So I come from dance and a theater background, and storytelling, I fell into storytelling quite by accident. So this happened a few years ago when Paola Balbi, she's a master storyteller based in Italy. So she spends her time in Italy and the UAE. She brought the concept of storytelling to Dubai, first through something called a storytelling cafe, similar to this. So inviting people from the general public to listen to stories and to share stories. I was invited to be part of that really intimate evening, and she asked me to share a story. So I just got up and shared a story, something that I'm very familiar with from my state. So I'm from Kerala. I shared the Mahabali story. And quite naturally, it came out of me in the form of dance and words and music and rhythm. And I realized then that I've always been telling stories, except they were, through words, like if I'm playing a character in a play, so they would come out through words and action, or they would come out through dance. So this was the first time that I was trying it as a storyteller. So I realized that I was always a storyteller. So it was Paola who initiated me into the art of storytelling. Till then, I didn't know that this was a profession. This was what my grandmother did. No, seriously. So Granny would tell us stories. My great-grandma would tell me stories. So they were like the real storytellers that I knew of. And it's only very recently, a few years ago, that I came to know of storytelling as a profession and a legit profession, and about how old this tradition is, this practice of oral storytelling is in our country. So since then, I've been like sort of digging into our treasure troves to draw out gems from the Panchatantra, from the Itihasas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, which I'm already familiar with because of my classical dance training. So it's been quite an interesting journey. Now, that was my personal journey, after which, I went to Bangalore, I studied at Kathalaya, and I've been sort of training, performing, so all of that. What's the scene like in the UAE? It's actually a very small scene, but there is a scene and it's slowly starting to grow. So a few years ago, I would say about 5 or 6 years ago, when Paola came here, she started the first storytelling festival, the International Storytelling Festival. This happens in an emirate called Sharjah, which is quite close to Dubai. So this was the first storytelling festival that was organized, annual festival on an island called Al-Noor. And it happens during the month of March, Feb-March. So obviously this year it hasn't happened. But otherwise, Paola and her partner Davide, they bring all sorts of storytellers from all over the world and curate this beautiful storytelling festival. So this is the only international festival that happens in the UAE. Other than that, lots of other storytellers have started to crop up. There's this beautiful performing community theater space called The Junction. So they do stuff for children. Independently, there are storytellers that go to schools and speak to children. But otherwise, storytelling is called the Hakawapi tradition. So that is a practice that is in this region anyway. So it is a small scene, but I'd like to say it's growing. Now, let's come to the actual storytelling session, shall we? Okay, some of you may have celebrated Janmashtami, right? Krishna's birthday. And some of you may still be in the hangover of Janmashtami, especially after eating those amazing sweetmeats that you make at home. I am going to make today a sort of Janmashtami special, if that's okay. All right. So, who is Krishna to you? That is the question. Krishna, when you think about Krishna, what do you think of? Possibly the first thing that comes to mind is butter thief, right? What else? The lad who lifted up the mountain on his pinky, right? What else? The graceful dancer, perhaps? Or the one who plays his enchanting flute? Or an astute statesman, a warrior? What else? Krishna is many, many things. So I don't really know where to start this story. His life is a jigsaw puzzle of so many anecdotes from a lot of things, from his childhood, from his adulthood to the Mahabharata war and beyond. It is so much. There's so much to speak. So where do I begin? Where do I begin to tell the story of this playful cowherd lord? This king, this yogi, this king, this yogi, was he man or was he God? A friend, a lover, a guide, this much we concord. Where do I start? It's always a good idea to start in the beginning. So let's go back to where it all started. Shall we? Once upon a time, it was a dark, stormy night. It was the 8th day of the month of Shravana. And on that night was born the 8th child of Devaki and Vasudeva. He was born in a prison, not like other babies. And even before Devaki could hold him in her arms, he was snatched away from her, snatched away by Vasudeva, her husband, because they had to hurry. You see, this child was her 8th child. And according to prophecy, the 8th child of Devaki would kill her brother, the evil king of Mathura. And it was his ploy. This was his idea to entrap and enslave Devaki and Vasudeva in this jail so that he could kill every single one of their children. And the 8th was the one that he was after. But Vasudeva quickly took the child and went to the banks of the river Yamuna. And there he passed on this baby to the head of the cowherd, Nanda. And off went the child to his foster parents, Nanda and Yashoda. Isn't that beautiful? So this beautiful child grows up with his foster parents and he learns love through his foster parents. Now, this was not an ordinary child. He was an impish prankster and he loved food. Food of all kinds, sweetmeats, anything to do with milk and milk products. Yes, he wasn't lactose intolerant. I can tell you that much. Anything, like absolutely anything with milk. Pedas, butter, ghee, milk, anything. His most favorite was butter. And therefore he was called Makhan Chor. Right. So you see, he would steal butter. He would get into all sorts of mischief. He would tie little girls' hairs together so they would bang into each other. He would go out and play with his friends. He made friends with animals and humans alike. And his favorite thing was stealing food. Yeah. And he was also a cowherd. He loved taking his cows out to graze, and he would play with the boys and the cows, and he would return home. Now, on one of those days, Yashoda had just finished preparing breakfast, and he had eaten his breakfast, and they were resting for a bit before lunchtime, and the sun was high up. It was noontime and it was hot. Now, whenever Krishna wants to go out, he will. So, Yashoda was sat in the kitchen preparing butter, his favorite thing, and from the corner of her eye, she noticed a movement. Shall we watch what happens? So Krishna says that he wants to go and play. Now, we South Indians are feeling a little left out with all this Krishna incidents and stuff happening up in the north of India. So Yashoda is going to speak in Tamil for a little bit. All she wants to tell her darling son is, it's very hot outside. Please don't go out and play. Okay? So what does she do? She tries to bribe him with his favorite food. Okay? That's milk and sweets and butter and all of those things. So let's see how she tries to bribe him. மாடு மேய்க்கும் கண்ணே நீ போக வேண்டாம் சொன்னேன். மாடு மேய்க்கும் கண்ணே நீ போக வேண்டாம் சொன்னேன். காய்ச்சின பால் தரேன். காய்ச்சின பால் தரேன். கல்கண்ட சீனி தரேன். காய்ச்சின பால் தரேன். கல்கண்ட சீனி தரேன். கை நிறைய வெண்ணெய் தரேன். வெயிலிலே போக வேண்டாம். கை நிறைய வெண்ணெய் தரேன். வெயிலிலே போக வேண்டாம். மாடு மேய்க்கும் கண்ணே நீ போக வேண்டாம் சொன்னேன். What does Krishna answer to all of that? Let's listen to him. So he goes, milk, chini, കായ്ച്ചിന പാലും വേണ്ട, കൽക്കണ്ട ചീനിയും വേണ്ട. കായ്ച്ചിന പാലും വേണ്ട, കൽക്കണ്ട ചീനിയും വേണ്ട. ഉല്ലാസമായി ആടുമേത്ത് ഒരു നൊടിയിൽ തിരുമ്പിടുവേൻ. ഉല്ലാസമായി ആടുമേത്ത് ഒരു നൊടിയിൽ തിരുമ്പിടുവേൻ. പോക വേണം തായേ തടை சொல்லாதே நீயே. போக வேணும் தாயே தடை சொல்லாதே நீயே. So this is what happens to mothers, right? You try bribing, but no. Krishna was one special kid like this. But he also performed a lot of miracles while he was in Vrindavan. Now, coming back to Janmashtami, let's talk about food. Who at home has had Chapenmoog or prepared Chapenmoog at home or gone out to eat Chapenmoog? Do you know what Chapenmoog is? It's when you have 56 different types of dishes and you eat them special for Janmashtami. Do you want to know the story behind Chapenmoog? So this is how it happened. So you see, Krishna, as you know, loves food. How many meals do you think he ate a day? Just guesstimate. 1, no chance. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Apparently, he used to eat 8 meals a day and do all of that work and mischief and everything and plays flute. 8 meals a day. Now, one such day, he noticed that the villagers of Vrindavan were getting ready for a sacrifice. They prayed to the god Indra, the god of rain, Now, obviously, the god of rain is very important for farmers and cowherds. And they prayed to him, and it was a sacrificial prayer. And Krishna, this young lad, questioned it and said, "Why should we offer a sacrifice to Indra? I don't think we should, not this year. That is not our dharma. We are cowherds, and we should carry as we are, and the sacrifice should stop." And so, that year, the cowherds didn't offer a sacrifice to Indra. And Indra was very angry. And he sent torrential rain down, rain down to frighten the villagers. He had to show his fury. And all of the villagers ran up to Krishna. Although he was a young lad, they knew he was a special one. And so they ran up to him and said, "Krishna, save us." And Krishna went up to the mountain, the Govardhan mountain, and he looked at it and he lifted it. Lifted it and raised it up on his pinky finger and held it there for 7 days and 7 nights as an umbrella that protected the villagers from the torrential rain. And he protected them. He didn't have a morsel of food even for 7 days and 7 nights, and he stood there protecting his villagers. And finally, Indra conceded his defeat, and the rains stopped. And he finally put the mountain down, and the villagers were safe. Now you see, for 7 days and 7 nights, he hasn't had a meal at all. So the villagers, as a thank you, prepared 8 special dishes for each day times 7 days. So what is 7 times 8? That's right, Chappan, 56. So that is a story behind these 56 dishes. So the next time you have Chapenmoog, just remember the story and the mountain and Krishna and starving and all of that. And that makes it even more rich. And as you enjoy your meal, you will appreciate it more, hopefully. Now, Krishna had other pastimes too, other than food. As he started growing up, he grew up into a young, handsome lad who loved to play the flute. And he would play it every day. And he would go by Yamuna and he would sit and he would play. Now, the gopis or the cowherds, the women of Vrindavan would come and listen to him because his music was so beautiful. And they would sit and they would be mesmerized. And these were women of all ages, married, unmarried, young, old. He just stole their hearts. So at first, he was a butter thief. And now he became a thief stealing everyone's heart. So he sat and played the flute. Out of all the gopis, he had one special one, and her name was Radha. Now, Radha was older. She was a married woman. But you see, it kind of defines what love is, right? Love is beyond all of these things. It is the meeting of two souls. And Radha and Krishna were soulmates. Even still, Radha was always jealous because all the other gopis would surround him, wanting his attention and love. And Krishna gave everyone undivided attention. That was his specialty. Even still, Radha, Radha, Radha. Now there's this really interesting, really sweet song that you may have heard. I'm going to dip into Bollywood for a second and I'm going to sing this little song for you. And it goes like this. मधुबन में जो कन्हैया किसी गोपी से मिले, कभी मुस्काए, कभी छेड़े, कभी बात करे, राधा कैसे न जले, राधा कैसे न जले, आग तन मन में लगे, राधा कैसे न जले, राधा कैसे न जले. So how can Radha not be jealous, right? So let's see what Krishna says. Krishna says, मत बन में भले कान्हा किसी गोपी से मिले, मन में तो राधा की है प्रेम के फूल खिले, किस लिए राधा जले, किस लिए राधा जले, बिना सोचे समझे, किस लिए राधा जले, किस लिए राधा जले. Not convinced. Radha is not convinced. She wants to hear more. गोपियां तारे हैं, चांद है राधा, फिर क्यों है उसको विश्वास आधा. Point. So Radha says, कान्हा जी का जो सदा इधर उधर ध्यान रहे, राधा बेचारी फिर अपने भी क्या मान रहे. Krishna says, गोपियां आनी जानी है, राधा तो मन की रानी है, गोपियां आनी जानी है, राधा तो मन की रानी है, सांझ सखारे जमुना किनारे, राधा राधा ही कान्हा पुकारे. हाय 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 हाय, बाहों का हार जो डाले कोई कान्हा के गले, राधा कैसे न जले, राधा कैसे न जले, राधा कैसे न जले, राधा कैसे न जले. So that was how deep their love was. It sounds a little bit teenagerish. They were young, but their love was deep, because even after he left Vrindavan, Radha was always in his heart, always in his heart. And so he traveled from Vrindavan back to Mathura to kill his uncle. And he did. He was born to do that. And so he killed Kamsa. And after that, I think, okay, I have a few more stories to tell, but I can see that we're quite close to time. So I'm going to wrap this up really, really quickly. So anyway, so after he leaves all of that, then he goes to, he goes to Mathura, kills his uncle. Okay, this is like fast forward, okay? Mathura kills his uncle, then he travels from there, builds a capital in Dwarka, where he takes all his citizens and he builds a beautiful city. There he marries Rukmini, and from there is the war of Mahabharata, where he plays the Sutradhar. He plays the Sutradhar and he becomes the advisor to Arjuna, and he becomes his charioteer. But that's not the end. He lived all the way up to when he was 125 years. And in the end, he was killed in an accident, which he knew that he would be killed. An arrow pierced his heel, and that was his end. Or as we like to say, he ascended up to the heavens. So I am going to come back to my original question. Who is Krishna to you? What does Krishna teach you? So in my view, I think Krishna is love. He teaches you love and camaraderie, that God is not this being up in the heavens. God is that love in my heart and yours. God, it is a kind of duty to the work that we do. So that is what Krishna is, and I'm going to conclude with a little song for you. Achyutam Keshavam Krishna Damodaram Ram Narayanam Janaki Vallabham. कौन कहता है भगवान आते नहीं, कौन कहता है भगवान आते नहीं, तुम मीरा के जैसे बुलाते नहीं, तुम मीरा के जैसे बुलाते नहीं, कौन कहता है भगवान खाते नहीं, कौन कहता है भगवान खाते नहीं, देर शबरी के जैसे खिलाते नहीं, देर शबरी के जैसे खिलाते नहीं, कौन कहता है भगवान सोते नहीं, कौन कहता है भगवान सोते नहीं, माँ यशोदा के जैसे सुलाते नहीं, माँ यशोदा के जैसे.
Thank you, Shereen. That was awesome, wasn't it? I loved it, every single moment of it. And today was also our festival special with Janmashtami, the story of Krishna. And next week, too, we will have another festival special. But hold your thoughts and hold your curiosity. We will reveal it during this week. Thank you so much, Shereen. It was wonderful to have you as our guest in our Zoom studios and Storytellers Cafe, and absolutely enjoyed it. Thank you for coming and being our guest. Wonderful. And that's me signing off today. That's all for now. 30 minutes, remember. So we might, you do feel like listening to more stories, don't we? Let's see. So thank you, Shereen. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Storytellers Cafe. And I'm signing off. Usha Venkatram.
This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत. बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
This is